So with that, we'll get started with Lubuntu.
Okay, so I have 5 minutes to talk about Lubuntu. So 5 images and some words for the next release. So in this release, we introduce a new icon theme. Our designer done a really great job to make it happen. We have application icon, toolbar icons, and some integration with other application. So it was a lot of work. It's yet not perfect, so we will go more for next cycle. The next item is the look and feel. So we improve our GTK theme. We improve the integration with our application to make the experience better for people who use Ubuntu. The next item is the size of the ISO. We try to keep the size of a CD so people can still burn a CD, an ISO on the CD. It's very important for some support, particularly for PowerPC. Some people still rely on the CD. Also, we have many ISO, many architectures, thanks to ARM people, because in this cycle we have an ARM image. Thanks to people who work on PowerPC, the tester and the developer, because it was pretty hard to have something which works this cycle. So thank you for this. And also we keep the alternate image because many computers we try to install Lubuntu work better with alternate. And finally, we have a big update of the file manager, which now is more stable and it works very, very well. So for the next release, we are trying to do more icons, more testing, and try to have more device available. That means we are improving the icon we introduced last cycle and also integration with the application. We also add more testing and more specific testing for us. And maybe if it's possible, we'll try to put Lubuntu also on Nexus 7. I will. Okay, so if you have questions, I'm here for all the UDS. Or, oh, thank you.
You have time. We can field a few questions. We have like 5 minutes. We could take a few questions.
Do you happen to know if the ARM version works on the Toshiba AC100?
Yes, very well. Yes, it works.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Thank you.
All right, next.
Sorry.
Hi. So many years ago, I got a phone call from a caller who said, "Pants off," because it turned out to be Jeff Waugh. He said, "Jonathan, you're a good-looking guy. Would you like to make a KDE flavor of Ubuntu?" So for the last 7 or so years, I have been making Kubuntu, helped by some of the best-looking developers from not just our Kubuntu team, but also our upstreams in Debian and KDE. So I'd like to introduce you to the ones who have made it to the conference today. This is Steve Riley, who used to work for Microsoft, but then decided he needed a new, better look. So he dyed his hair blonde, he installed Kubuntu, and he now acts as a link between us developers and the Kubuntu forums. So for example, when we make a change like dropping the alternative CD, he's able to say if people have problems with it and if they can easily work around them, or if we need to look again at that kind of change. Scott Kitterman, a hard man to photograph. But believe me, he is good looking, and he's so good looking that he gained access to various elite teams within Ubuntu, like the release team and the UDS organizers team and the server team and backporters, and that means that he can act as a link between Kubuntu and the various other teams within the Ubuntu project and make sure that we're all working together effectively. Michał Ziont, with his youthful good looks and energy, does excellent Polish translations, packaging and Universe, and he also works on Project Neon, which is a unique service putting daily builds of KDE into Launchpad, which gets heavy use by KDE developers and testers to make sure that the crack of the day is up to scratch and working. Aurélien here, with his sexy French accent, he develops many important parts of KDE, including the image viewer Gwen View, and he's currently busy working on a new application launcher, which he's due to launch next week, and he works on Last Mile, which is a KDE project equivalent to 100 paper cuts, so fixing those last annoying bugs that people never get to. Alex Fiesta's there. He's one of the best-looking KDE developers, and he works on hardware integration in KDE, so making sure that the solid library works properly with displays and audio and so forth. And he's a frequent Kubuntu tester, installing it once a month to ensure that we're giving the best KDE experience possible. So it really helps to have upstreams who create that link and are able to give feedback both ways between them. Albert Chastel-Sid is here. He's an elite and handsome member of the KDE release team and many other important parts of KDE. And he works for Canonical, not on Kubuntu, but on various Qt projects. So if Canonical needs something out of Qt, as the people who maintain most of the Qt packages within Ubuntu, he gets sent to us to tell us what changes Canonical needs. Rohan Garg here is so good looking that he was put on the front of the UDS website. And we found him trolling on IRC one day, and we said, well, a good-looking guy like you should be helping and not trolling on IRC. So since then, he's been able to maintain a bunch of stuff like kdevelop and the KDE telepathy packages, and he's done a bunch of work on telepathy. He's been testing, he's got a tablet, so he's been an early tester of Kubuntu Active, which is our tablet version, with a user interface built specifically for tablets. And he works on the Blue Shell PPA, which makes, among other things, Firefox with KDE integration in it, which is much used. Jussi Kekkonen is contact for the Finnish local team for Ubuntu, and he does support on IRC channels. And he's so good looking that he was allowed onto the IRC council for Ubuntu. So whenever we in Kubuntu need something out of IRC, we just get him to work out what the complex commands are between Freenode and the bots to make things happen. We also have Suna here, who is an elite and dashing KDE packager for Debian. And as such, we depend on a lot of his work in that he makes KDE packages in Debian. And he's popping in this week to make sure that we're not adding too many bugs to his Debian packages and that we're looking after them properly. And finally, here's Fadi, who, with his designer beard, works for Linaro, but more importantly, he does Qt packaging in Debian, including the first Qt 5 packages. So we depend an awful lot on him as well. So we're always looking for new people to come and help out, of course, and we're always wanting to talk to users and get feedback. And there are many levels, of course, that people can help on: community and artwork and documentation, as well as programming and packaging. And it doesn't matter if you're not good-looking enough, because by becoming a Kubuntu developer, you become good-looking. So do come and join us.
He's got time for one question. Nobody? Really? Okay, next.
Okay, I'm one of the developers for Ubuntu Studio, and I'm not going to talk so much about the current release. It's quite good, so if you want to try it out, just do. It's a live DVD, and it's a bit bigger than most other releases because we like to keep a lot of multimedia packages pre-installed. We use the Xfce Desktop It's mostly imported from Xubuntu. We are not that concerned with the desktop, except for that it works very well for multimedia creation. And we have our own kernel, which is Linux low latency. And we need it, because without it we can't get the low latency we need for audio. And then the packages that we like to keep pre-installed are gathered in metas, which are categorized after different workflows. So, which are the traditional audio, graphics, video, and now we have introduced 2 new ones, photography and publishing. So, what we would like to do for the next cycle is to, we need more developers, because we have a lot of good ideas, but at the moment I think our team is a little bit too small to realize many of those ideas. So in order to do this, we have to, we are currently doing some changes in the organization that we actually get a little bit more organized with proper teams, and that each team will have responsibilities in different areas and be able to work independently. One thing that I have been thinking about quite a bit lately is developer documentation. Something that I think all the different flavors lack a bit, and we share a lot of the tasks. I think most of the tasks that we do are quite similar, and it would be very good if we had sort of a universal documentation for flavors, for developers for these flavors. That's something I think we will be working for. And of course, we need to reach out to people in different medias. We are doing that now, but not really enough. But before we can really try to get more developers, we need to be ready to get them into the system. It has to go quickly. They need to very quickly understand how things work, and there's quite a lot of information you need to have before you understand that. Okay, so something that we've been thinking about, but perhaps not really striving for in the past, is software development. There are some ideas, and I think we should now try to realize them. There is one application we have had in the past, which is Ubuntu Studio Controls, which is no longer up to date, but for the next cycle I think we will make a new one, and it will handle real-time privilege for users. You'll be able to set that, which is quite an important thing to do for people who don't know much about Linux. If they use a regular Ubuntu and they want to use it for audio, they install applications, but they won't get the latency they need, not even if they install Linux low latency. They need to do some settings. So that's one important thing we need to be able to give them. And some other things like monitor calibration. I'm not so into graphics, so I don't exactly know what else we can do on that. And there's some ideas for our workflow manager, and that's something that correlates with the idea we have for designing the menus after workflows. And there's an idea of a panel which would change its appearance according to which workflow you are using. So it would have starters, settings, things like that. And we're developing a system startup script which will analyze the system and see if there are some settings that are not optimal for multimedia. And maybe you need to do some initial setting up, like choose which audio device you like to use. Okay, so we're also working on creating a user documentation. And that will be multimedia specific, so not so much desktop based. And that will also be workflow oriented. So if you like to record and mix a pop song, that's like more in that kind of fashion, rather than a more strict reference type of documentation. And we'll have a written documentation and have some YouTube videos. And one thing that's happening right now is that we'll get full or better control of the maintenance of Linux low latency, which is very important for us. And we're happy to get some assistance from the Ubuntu kernel team on this. So yeah, that's all. So if anyone has any questions.
Got time for one question. Wow, easy.
Okay, thanks.
Hello, I'm Basil Alinaho. I'm the Xubuntu project lead for a year now. For Q, we did a few things, but most importantly, we focused on the community. We did a few things. We rewrote our strategy document from the start to the end, all over it. And it should be much easier to read now. It should be easier for new people to come and contribute because we have now guidelines they can read and they don't have to spend a week on it. We also created an initiative to rewrite our offline documentation, and we asked our community who would be interested in helping us. And in the end, we had like 20 people turning up. We didn't know before, and we got our offline documentation rewritten for Q. And I think that was quite remarkable, really, because we wouldn't have time to do it ourselves. Also, we had some new social media outlets. We created a Twitter account, and we have been tweeting from UDS and before for anything Xubuntu related and anything related to the development community. And also, we'd had some people running Facebook and LinkedIn and whatever social media accounts, and we contacted them and asked if they wanted to be official. And they were really honored all, and we just made sure we get the administration rights for the groups, but they will keep managing the groups themselves. So we don't have to do that. So it's really great. It's from the community, not from us. Also, we did some Xubuntu merchandise, which I will be talking about later. Other things we did for Q is Xfce 4.10 is now in Quantal. We also had to drop GIMP and Gnumeric to fit on the CD. Unfortunately, we will probably reintroduce them again later if we have the space. We now have GTK 2 and 3 and Python 2 and 3. And thanks for Mika, wherever you are, if you are here, for doing all the hard work. We also dropped the alternate images because we don't have enough testers to really test all the images. And we are thankful to Lubuntu that they are keeping it because we can just, well, tell people to use Lubuntu instead. For rearing, we are planning to continue working with the community. One of the things is we have to start doing the team reports again. We haven't done them in a year. We really need to reach out to do author developers too. Also, we have to, or we will want to continue to encourage our developer community members to write to our website blog. We have had a few, like visiting writers, but we will want that to continue. And finally, we need to focus on how the developer community can work. We need to track Xubuntu-related bugs better in the future, and we want to fix the bugs that are bugging our users. We also are going to continue working on the documentation. We want to enable translations, and we want to attribute the new documentation to Precise, because the documentation in Precise is 4 years old, soon 5 years old. We also want to get the documentation uploaded to Xubuntu.org, so it won't be offline documentation anymore. So people who want to browse the internet can get to the documentation there, in addition to the applications menu. Some other ideas for Raring 2 is introducing a display dialog for managing your monitors. It's almost ready already. Then replacing a la carte with the menu libre, menu editor done by our contributor. It's almost ready also, so we only need to test it. Then we want to introduce a dialog to control the GTK theme colors, and it's also almost ready. Yeah, and then something else, maybe we have one more planning session in UDS, and you can join us. So here's the merchandise I was talking about earlier. We have already instructions on how you can order your own stickers. We are soon doing the same for the case badges we have there. Well, the ping pong balls won't be orderable, but we will have the t-shirts and flyers and any kind of merchandise you can think of. If you have any ideas what we should do, just contact us, and we will make sure we have the good vendors who can ship you these things, and it's good quality and a reasonable price. Yeah, and in UDS we have a planning session in Thursday. I think it's at noon if it's not moved again. So if you want to come and join us or ask some things, or if you have ideas for the next Xubuntu, join us. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Jonathan, and this is Stefan. We're representing the Edubuntu development team, and we're very representative of that team. Where's our slides? Thank you. So it shows very bright colors for the slides because I knew we were up last, and I see some people already falling asleep, so hopefully that will help you keep awake. I thought I'd do a quick recap of what I talked about at last UDS, because I know not everyone was here last time. So what happened previously was we got into a position in Edubuntu where all the low-hanging fruits have been kind of picked in terms of what we needed to do, and we got kind of bored, and we got into a state where if something didn't fit into a 6-month cycle, we just didn't do it. So we were looking at ways to do more long-term projects and get more people involved in Edubuntu. So last time I started to get excited and make things campaign with Edubuntu, and to kick that off, we decided to start with two long-term projects. One was reviving the Edubuntu server project, and the other one was looking at what we can do for tablets. Our goal was to get Edubuntu working on some tablet that's easy to work with, and then do a gap analysis to see of what's missing on it. But I'll get to that a bit more in a second. So we were first wondering, we were thinking like, do we do most of the stuff we do internally, and well, do we release everything we have and throw out every idea that we can possibly think of to people and see who comes and who wants to contribute, or do we just do we just do things internally between us, and once things are working properly, we push it out there. But we just decided that that's not the way we do things in Edubuntu, so we rather put it out as it's ready. In Edubuntu, our long-term goals are mostly for LTS releases now, where we used to recommend to stay on the latest release because Edubuntu got drastically better with every release for a few cycles. We now recommend that people stay with LTS releases. So if you've seen 12.04, you'll know that it's a really great, solid system, and it works really well. And long-term features are for 14.04 as well, and I'm going to speak a little bit of our plan towards that. So our big goal is to basically have a whole school solution. So you download an Edubuntu DVD, and you can install your servers with it, and tablets, and your desktop and clients and everything will just work out of the box, and they don't need to buy anything else or do any additional work. It should be brain dead. You just install it, and it works. The only other image they'll need is one for tablets, because it's another architecture than what your servers are. Maybe by then schools will run ARM servers, who knows. But that's pretty much our goal for 14.04. And I put the technology in there because when we say all school solution, people tend to assume that we provide educational content and curriculum, which is a bit outside of our scope, mostly because to do that internationally for every school in every country is pretty much impossible with our resources. So what we want to do instead is make it a good platform for delivering education on, and third-party providers to provide content for. So towards 14.04, we're starting with some of the things in 13.04 already. So we're already releasing the Edubuntu server product. Stefan is going to do a quick demo of joining an Edubuntu domain after I talk. And tomorrow there's a big session on a demo on Samba 4 and the integration with that in Edubuntu. So if you do any infrastructure work for schools or small businesses or anything, I'd strongly suggest you'd be there because it's really awesome. And the code works already. It's not actually packaged yet, but it will be there by the time the 13.04 daily build starts. So really soon you'll be able to download an image and play with it. And another thing we also plan to do is, well, everything will run in LXC containers in Edubuntu server. So you'd be able to, Juju will be integrated so that if you want a new WordPress site or some blogs for kids to play with, you can quickly and easily set it up with very little effort. Edubuntu tablet, that's what it, the last cycle we went with the Zartab from Zareason. We chose that one because it's rooted by default, it's easy to hack on. But we had lots of trouble firstly getting the tablets, and then actually getting them to work wasn't quite as trivial as we thought. So we're kind of doing what everyone else is doing and going with an Nexus 7 for the next cycle because we know that our hard lifting is already done. And we're getting in touch with upstream developers as well for things that are in Edubuntu like gcompre and Tux for Kids and maybe KDE Edu as well to make sure that their applications work on Edubuntu and with a tablet. And of course, we're integrating all our own tools with it. So yeah. Next. So yeah, the 13.04 is a continuation of what I talked about last UDS, plus all the tablet and server stuff that we want to do, and the desktop stuff. So you're at UDS, that session is tomorrow. I checked, it hasn't been rescheduled yet. So as of now, it's still that time. So I strongly suggest that if you have interest in Edubuntu directory server, you should come because it's really going to be awesome. And yeah, please join our mailing lists and join us on Edubuntu on Freenode and get involved because it's cool. Thanks.
Right. Right, so let's see if the product likes me and try to do that really, really quick. All right. Work. Sort of. I don't suppose there's any way you can improve that. Damn it.
It's okay, take your time.
Do this lightning talk tomorrow.
Yeah, I guess we'll just show it tomorrow.
Sorry.
Cool.
Good afternoon. This is a bug. This is a bug that makes the software properties utility crash. This bug first appeared in Ubuntu 12.04 on May 4th, and by May 17th, this was the 6th most common crash for all people using Ubuntu on a PC. How do we know that? Because whenever software properties crashed, it disappeared off the screen, but this message appeared in its place, explaining what had happened. And 53,988 times, users across the world clicked one of these buttons and sent an error report. Today, cheers. Today I'm going to talk to you about the Ubuntu Error Tracker, the system that displays this message and deals with these error reports that you send. I'm going to talk about what we've learned from collecting error reports over the past 7 months, and I'm going to invite you to help us making Ubuntu more reliable. When software properties crashed, most of these 53,988 times, people didn't look at the error report that they were sending, and that's fine. The point of this message is to first explain what went wrong, and second, to let you report the problem with no additional effort. No signing up for a Launchpad account. No answering obscure questions, no attaching log files, or anything like that. Now, maybe it would be really useful to include some log files occasionally. And one of the things that we'd like to be able to do in the future is to let developers say, hey, the next time this error happens, I want the report to include this log file as well. But that shouldn't involve any extra user effort at all. Anyway, most of the time, people didn't look at the report that they were sending, but if they did, this is what it looked like. When they then clicked the button, the apport program that displayed this dialog passed the report along to a program called Whoopsie. Whoopsie waited until there was a fast connection to the internet and sent the report to a gigantic database in one of Canonical's data centers. We call this database Daisy because, well, Whoopsie Daisy is an absolutely brilliant name. Thank you, Ian Farrell. Daisy has processed 22,579,560 reports since we started collecting them back in April. Anyway, Daisy took this one of the 22,579,560 reports and identified what made it an instance of a particular bug. It grouped the report together with other reports for that problem. And each time it happened, in a table on the Error Tracker website, the count for this problem increased by 1. And that's how we found out that it was the number 6 most common problem in all of Ubuntu. One day after that, a developer by the name of Edward Donovan noticed that it was a common problem and set about fixing it. This is a good thing. If you are a software engineer or if you are the manager of an engineering team, please, please make errors.ubuntu.com part of your routine. On that leaderboard of most common problems, if you see errors in software that you maintain, that's a hint that you should get them fixed. That's how we make Ubuntu more reliable for the most people, by fixing the problems that affect people the most often. Here, though, we need to talk about something called Goodhart's Law. Goodhart's Law states that if you use a surrogate measure as a metric, it will become corrupted. Now, what on earth does that mean? Well, at the moment, the kinds of errors we collect are mostly crashes. But we could fix every single crash in Ubuntu and still have an operating system that was too unreliable for people to use. It could hang or lock up all the time. It could refuse to start. It could give you error messages that you simply do not understand. And none of these things would be crashes. The rate of crashes is not a complete measure of reliability. It is a surrogate measure for reliability, and it would become corrupted if Ubuntu engineers concentrated on crashes at the expense of everything else. To help prevent this in Ubuntu 12.10, we've started collecting more kinds of errors. We start with what we call recoverable errors. These are when an application developer knows that something has gone wrong and they need to apologize to the users for that occurring, but they also need to collect data on exactly what had happened. For example, Ubuntu Software Center uses a recoverable error when the policy kit security mechanism for installing software isn't running properly, or when something goes wrong during package installation that is not the fault of the package itself. This helps us find lots of different bugs in different parts of Ubuntu. These are bugs that we normally would not know about, and they are shown in a way that does not bring down the whole application. In 1304, we'll be collecting reports of application hangs, kernel ellipses, configuration change dialogues, and devconf prompts appearing on the desktop. We're going to collect package installation failures, GPU hangs, and suspend resume failures as well. We'll find a way to group these together logically so that developers can see how often they happen and fix the most common causes first. We'll also explore other problem types like Ubuntu installation failures. If you have more suggestions, please come find me in the halls. Now, you might be thinking that sounds like a lot of error dialogues, and it is something that we need to be careful about. Collecting data is great, but it is not as important as people feeling in control of their Ubuntu experience. So 3 things to keep in mind. First, most of these other types of errors are much, much less common than crashes. Second, for several of them, we're not even adding an extra dialogue. We are simply redesigning a dialogue that already exists. And third, when there's an error that Ubuntu does not need to tell you about, we'll wait until the next error that Ubuntu does need to explain to you. Then we'll ask for your permission to send the reports all in one go. Now let's get back to our story about that software properties bug. You'll remember that Edward Donovan had fixed the bug, and that's a good start. But a fix isn't effective until it's included in an update. Update is not effective until it's been installed. And in 8 years, we've never had any idea how quickly updates get installed in Ubuntu until today. This is the number of reports we received of that error from July through October. Here's where the fix went into a proposed update, and here's where that update was published. 2 days later, which is really impressive, the frequency of that error had dropped by half, which tells us that about 50% of active machines had the update installed. 7 days after that, the frequency had halved again. Soon we'll be able to average this across all fixed errors to see how quickly updates get installed on average in each Ubuntu version. Because an important part of making Ubuntu more reliable is to get fixes installed sooner. Now, there are lots of things we could do to achieve that, but I'm not going to talk about them today. Frankly, I don't have time. Come to our sessions after the group photo to learn more about these, please. But what would happen if that graph had actually curved upward? Well, that would be a regression. Occasionally this happens, right? A developer makes a change that they think fixes a bug, but actually makes it worse. Oops. So every update carries with it a certain element of risk. We don't want to simply push an update to all computers immediately. So in 1304, we'll be phasing software updates. Updates will first hit a small set of systems running Ubuntu. If the data from the error tracker shows no issues reported from these systems, more systems will be invited to install the update. So it absolutely is. So an update that made a program start, if an update made a program start crashing, the number of systems affected would be kept small until we fixed it. The issue would be discovered quickly because the error tracker would alert us to it. In the same way we can graph how quickly people install updates, we can also tell roughly how quickly people upgrade from one Ubuntu release to the next. Now, this graph will be much more interesting a year or two from now, but already we can see that less than 2 weeks after release of the active PCs running Ubuntu 12.04 or 12.10, about 12% of them are already running Ubuntu 12.10. Now, do remember that 12.04 is a long-term support release, so most people will probably choose to stick with that for a couple of years, and indeed, we don't show the upgrade dialog until the next LTS release for those users. But this isn't just upgrades. There will be new users here as well, and this graph tells us only about PCs, not servers, because unfortunately, Apport and Whoopsie do not yet send server reports. We would like to make it easy and interesting for server admins to opt into that. And indeed, if you're building a development environment in the cloud, it should be really easy to turn on automatic error reporting for all of your virtualized systems. So if you work on the Maz team, on the Juju team, on the Landscape team, on the Ubuntu server team, or just generally have an interest in this, please come find us, give us a hand, tell us how we can make this happen. And finally, just for fun, we can give a precise measurement of how geeky Ubuntu is. We do this by calculating what percentage of active machines were running the 12.10 release candidate the day before 12.10 was released. And the answer is 2.8%. We'll see if that goes up or down in 6 months' time. So apart from fixing errors as they get reported, how can you help out? Well, I mentioned a lot of things we'd like to add to the error tracker, and only a few of us are working on this at the moment, but it is getting easier for you to contribute, and it's easier to test your contributions. You've heard a lot about Juju this week, and I'm really pleased to announce that the entire Ubuntu error tracker infrastructure is now available as a set of Juju charms. So with one command, you can deploy the entire Ubuntu error tracker infrastructure and start reporting crashes into your private copy, watching as new data appears in your own version of the website. But if backend and web applications aren't your thing, if you're more of a desktop UI kind of person, that's great. We could really use help making the user experience on the desktop rock solid, and thanks to Martin Pitt, the AppPort codebase is an absolute joy to hack on. So please come help us implement the aggregated report dialogues I mentioned previously. And no matter what your skill set, come talk to me. We will find a way for you to contribute, I promise you that, especially if you have a statistics background. We really need some mathematicians to come help us improve our calculations for the average errors per day calculation. Finally, I'd like to mention that Matthew Paul Thomas helped write this talk. He wanted to be here, but unfortunately he could not. The UKBA, the UK border agency, has once again trapped him in London for the second UDS in a row. However, I'm pretty sure he's listening in, so if you would be so kind as to humor me on the count of 3, let's all say, hello, Matthew. All right? 1, 2, 3. Hello, Matthew. Thank you.